I'm Edwin Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Arthur Cooksey, who is the founder and CEO of Let's Talk Interactive. Welcome, Art.
Thanks so much, Edwin. Thanks for having us on your show.
So prior to launching Let's Talk Interactive, you spent 7 years at the Bank of America. Tell us a little bit about your career and the decision to launch Let's Talk Interactive.
Well, actually, my decision to launch Let's Talk Interactive dated pre-Bank of America, and I spent 11 years with Bank of America. So the reason I pivoted over to Bank of America is when I started Let's Talk Interactive, the infrastructure just wasn't there. And so I needed time to let the infrastructure foster out. And I also needed a place to continue to develop as a business person and have an income, right? So being decades ahead of the foundation required for telehealth, I started with Bank of America and started out in sales and was award-winning in sales and went into sales leadership and was award-winning there and ended my career over strategy for small business banking. And I had some time in communications as well. So it really enabled me to diversify my education and business to include risk, merchant, strategy, communications, HR, scaling, budgeting, and all these great pieces. Bank of America was a fantastic place to learn. And I have fantastic and amazing relationships still with some of the leadership there. And again, the training was amazing. So it was an excellent time to spend a little over a decade, and learned a lot.
So tell us a little bit about the history of Let's Talk Interactive, some of the key milestones over the years.
Well, so initially we started the business in 2001. So you think back to technology in 2001, people were using AOL. They were still doing dial-up. There were no smartphones. People were using pagers to communicate, if you can remember back to pagers. And so the infrastructure just wasn't there. So the milestone was 2001, I think, seeing the opportunity so far ahead. In 2003, we got a patent on med carts and tying in the tele piece to hardware. And then I would say the biggest milestone since then, we took a pause and let the industry recover. And in 2016, someone from a hedge fund reached out to me wanting to buy the company. And it really drew my attention to the value of Let's Talk Interactive and what was coming, even though telehealth wasn't truly accepted in 2016. But I did have a dinner with who ultimately became one of my board members, but a close family friend, Candace DeLong, who's the star of Investigative Discovery, Deadly Women, and some different shows like that. And she was the second female FBI profiler. So she's also a psychiatric nurse. So we were at dinner and I was telling her about Let's Talk, and she's like, gosh, this is so needed today, especially with the lack in services and providers and some of the gaps in the system. So she really encouraged me to jump back in, and I did. So I doubled down on Let's Talk. I went out and I found someone to run the company as the president of the company, Josh Botball. And, it's been an exciting time. I left the bank in 2018 and pivoted over full-time as CEO in 2019. I've always been the chairman of the board. And in 2018, we had done revenues roughly around 136,000. In 2019, we went to 1.7 million. And in 2020, we broke $2 million. So those, I would say, are some pretty impressive milestones. I think some other things that's probably really happened, Edwin, is that the industry's really accepted telehealth. So I think that's a big milestone. I think when COVID hit, we were in a situation where people were like, what's telehealth? Is it snake oil? I need white papers. I need you to really explain this to me. And what's happened is since COVID, people have embraced telehealth. The government relaxing some of the restrictions on licensure requirements for different states. And I really heard a beautiful explanation of that from a heart surgeon who said, listen, I'm not allowed to perform heart surgery in another state because I'm not licensed there, but I can get on an airplane and I can fly to that state because I have a driver's license. I can drive all over the place really have no guidance or advanced direction on that. So I'd be a better heart surgeon than I would be a navigator in that state. So some of the licensure requirements just don't make sense, especially when you have shortages. So I think COVID is really, that's a big milestone for us as a company as well. It took us from really a hypothetical white papers explaining and showing how this works to people engaging it and really needing it to continue on to provide services.
And so what is the telehealth solutions that are being provided by Let's Talk today?
So we've got a range of solutions. We've got everything from the telehealth dashboards where a provider can connect directly with a patient. And then we've got virtual clinics where you can have a healthcare system and all the patients have access to that system so they can schedule, they can determine which provider is right for them, all the way to triaging where someone can go in line and be like next available to connect with someone, to 24-hour call centers for senior assisted facilities where they have after hours care. Really cuts down on the need to send some of these patients to the hospital, and they can be triaged in the evening when they may not have that nurse available, to med carts and soft packs and rugged telekits and kiosks for jails and schools, and to the software that pushes live analytics like pulse ox, EKG, dermoscopes, otoscopes, all the way out to telestroke. So we've really built a suite of products, including networks and developments. We have APIs, we can integrate into EHRs, EMRs, and then we have the network. So a lot of these providers or these networks come to us and they say, hey, we need the service, but we also have a shortage of psychiatrists or nurse pracs or primary care physicians or whatever. In some cases, they need them boots on the ground to actually show up to the facility. In some cases, they want to enable them through telehealth. So we can cover them both ways. We have over 39,000 providers in our network in all 50 states. So we're really set up to help our customers advance their workflow, not really putting them into a box, but saying, here are all the opportunities or options for you. Let's understand how your business works, and then we'll design the system based on your workflow.
And can you give us a snapshot of where Let's Talk is today in terms of employees, clients?
Yeah, so we're a growing company. We've increased our employee hire just in the last quarter by 30%, and we expect to do the same in Q2. So we're growing as a company. We currently have 6 full-time employees. We have about 10 contractors. We're starting to convert some of the contractors over to FTEs. We also, as far as clients, we have a lot of clients in Florida, including emergency management services, the schools in the Panhandle area. We're working to have all of the schools across Florida to create an ecosystem, if you will. We have most of the mental health provider networks in Florida. We have Department of Child Family, foster care. So we have all these different pieces. We've got the medical side of things. So we've got all these different pieces that are now sitting on one platform. So Florida, in my opinion, and Governor DeSantis has done a phenomenal job of creating a telehealth ecosystem for their citizens. So now someone in welfare or child family services could connect with someone in mental health services, or if there's a hurricane or a natural disaster, they can pivot over to emergency management services, and they can bring in triage providers who are already on the network that just are allowed access to the Department of Emergency Management system. And now they can have mental health services support, they can have medical services support, so they can have live analytics pushed to them. So it's really exciting what Florida's done. And we've got other states that are following. So we're working with some New York for jails, working with Arkansas, working with Wyoming, we're working with Mississippi, we're working inside the senior facilities. It's we're working with Soldier On up in the northeast. And I think we may talk a little bit about them later on, servicing the veterans, but it just seems like our ecosystem is really being accepted in a lot of different areas. And we've even had requests for building out financial services, since the security is so tight on the healthcare piece, that we, really security is the key driver, and patient information, obviously, for healthcare.
So you touched a little bit on the impact of COVID, but was it an important catalyst in your business? And how did you capitalize on that opportunity? There's obviously been, I've done quite a few telehealth interviews, and there's a lot of funding. Companies are being funded. So how did Let's Talk respond to that and capitalize on it?
COVID caught us off guard, just like it caught everyone else. And in February, I remember we were doing presentations and we were building out white papers to really, justify that telehealth is not snake oil and it's something that's reasonable to be used for patient care. And then post-COVID, there was a massive knee-jerk reaction, right? And the pendulum swung all the way to the left, and everyone was jumping into telehealth because they just had to do it to keep their business going. So people were jumping into whatever solution they could come across. And of course, with the restrictions being lifted, you saw FaceTime being used, Skype, some things that should never be used for a telehealth session. And so that movement happened. And you would think for us, the business would just go straight vertical at that point. But actually what happened is the utilization increased so heavily that we had to stop selling software for about 6 months and really go back into development and build out an ecosystem that was much more scalable to a national large amount of volume. And we're currently servicing about 3 million minutes of telehealth services a month on this new platform. But we took the time, we redeveloped, we made some changes that would really support the growth of the industry going forward and made those investments and I think positioned ourselves for huge growth, as well as like working with the government and some different areas that we didn't have access to pre-COVID. That as post-COVID comes along, we're really starting to engage some of these larger networks.
Let's talk a little bit about the competitive landscape, the number of competitors out there, VC and Global Med. How do you guys compete? How does Let's Talk compete in that competitive landscape?
I see Let's Talk as Switzerland when it comes to telehealth because we're really in it for our customer. So we have relationships with Global Med. We have relationships with VC. Global Med's a great partner. They help build our telemedicine kits that we deployed into Florida. We've done a lot of work with Global Med. With VC, we've done some development with them and for them, and we've created some new products together. So these are best-in-class organizations, in my opinion, and they all have their specific niche within the industry. And so when we need something that Global Med's best-in-class at providing, then we'll leverage that relationship to make sure that our customer has access to what they need. If we need something that VC has, really a best-in-class product in, then we'll leverage that relationship as well. Now, we built our own products that can work with all of their products. And again, we have developed onto some of their products as well. So I just see LTI is really in this business for our customers. And we're not trying to make anyone fit into a specific box. We want to really understand what our customers' needs are. And then we have the relationships and the partnerships to build a custom system or solution for them that works for them and is really following what their needs and their workflow are.
And so how is LTI positioned? It looks like you have a combination of products and services. And what's the mix as you go forward? What's going to be driving the business? Services or products, or is it going to have the same mix going forward?
So, it's an interesting question, Edwin. So when you think about, let's say, Microsoft days and IBM, right? And the marriage of the PC and the software. And then you brought in the mouse and it changed the game, right? It made everything easy and accessible and friendly, user-friendly. So I see that the hardware and the software mix, our software is device and browser agnostic. So we can use it on any browser. It can be on any device as long as there's 3G or better internet services. You can use a tablet, smartphone, computer, kiosk, whatever. When it comes to your software, it can be on, Edge or, Chrome or any of the different browsers that are out there. So that piece is really nice because it just flows evenly. Now, the need for kiosks is more specific to having a point of contact where they have, let's say, for the jails, for example, most jails are not right down the street. They're an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And the providers, you think about them, they probably don't live near the jail. They live closer to the city that's 2 hours away. So, these providers are paid portal to portal. So 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Of an 8-hour workday, you've just burned off half your day driving, right? So the other 4 hours are now dedicated to the services they can offer. With telehealth, we can set up a kiosk in the jail that's got a pan-tilt zoom camera, so the provider can really manage and access the angles and the view of the person that they're interviewing or having a session with. And then, these devices are solid. They weigh 80 pounds. They stick on a wall or they're, on a table, bolted down, so the inmate can't destroy them. But there's one use for hardware and software marriage. In the schools, we have similar kiosks, or we have tablets on a pole. And in the healthcare systems, you've got these med carts that roll down. I'm sure if you've ever been in a hospital, you've seen them rolling by. And they have all kinds of analytics and screens and accessories that can connect. So if your primary physician is miles away, you can still access them on that med cart from the bed that you're staying in. So I really see hardware and software is marrying. It's like they're a necessity together to drive good patient health care.
And let's talk a little bit about the capital journey that you've been through with LTI. And are there any fundraising plans in the future? Or just give us a little bit of history of the capital journey.
We started out bootstrapping, right? And I invested heavily in the company, especially in the beginning, personal funds. We did a small cap raise in 2020, and just to test it out, to start to, we're a C company, C Corp. We were set up by Patrick Doherty initially, who was an FCC attorney, and he's the one that quoted omnibus, one busy plan. And so he designed us to go public back at the turn of the century, which I kind of like saying that. So we've been built as a corporation and cap share in a very structured way to sell shares. It's just that we never really have. So we've had some friends and family like Candace has invested, and myself and some other small investors. And we did a small cap round in 2020 that was successful. And we're looking to do another small cap round in 21. Our stock valuation has gone up 2.5 times since we did the last little round in May of 2020. So that's exciting for those few investors that took advantage of the opportunity. And as we look at 2021, these investors, they're not investing as we look to grow some additional capital. They're not really investing in the development that we looked at and looked for in 2020. Now they're investing in the marketing, in the go-to-market, and to really become a dominant force in this marketplace. And I really relate it to the land rush, where people would jump on a horse and they'd ride as fast as they could, and they'd stake their claim to get their 50 acres. And I feel like that's what's going on in telehealth right now. There's a lot of people moving in as there needs to be. There needs to be a lot of play. We currently don't have enough people to service the need just in this country, outside of looking at anything globally. But yeah, our cap raise now will be a smaller one, and it's to come in probably the next 30 to 60 days. And then we'll look to see what happens in 22. But we're being, as you can imagine, we're being contacted by a lot of people that are interested in investing or in purchasing. So we're not quite at that point where we want to sell the company, but we're definitely at the point where we want to, grow into a $20+ million business.
And so what are your growth plans? Is it internal growth or any potential acquisitions on the horizon?
Okay, so the growth plans for LTI are really continuing to invest in our own infrastructure. We're going through the SOC 2 audits, and we're preparing for high trust and some different security platforms. FedRAMP is in our roadmap to really grow through developing out our marketing plans. So our growth for LTI is there's no firm leader in telehealth at this point, and there's no true ecosystem that really needs to happen. So what we're focused on right now is capturing as many states as possible and as many healthcare systems as possible to start to develop out an ecosystem that could be shared nationwide.
So is there any other part of the LT story that you'd like to share that you haven't shared with us?
LTI really is something that I would say the philosophy is we want to do good doing good, right? We want to earn a living and do well for our investors, helping others and helping society. And really, we've come to this passionate view that healthcare is a human right, right? Mental health care, healthcare, and I'm so excited to see that mental health really is now being taken seriously within healthcare, because for decades, not only was there, and there still is a huge need, but there was a separation. It was like the redheaded stepchild, if you will, within healthcare. So it's exciting to see that healthcare is embracing mental health is a part of the patient's service, complete service. And I'm just excited about the future. I'm excited to see people having access to healthcare, rural areas. I'm excited to see what Elon Musk is doing with Starlink and layering out that infrastructure for satellites. We're working with some of the Native American tribes, and for them, they've just never had access to high-speed internet. So they've never had access to any of this. I'm excited to see what we're doing in distance learning and allowing children to get an education remotely. And in some cases, where they have an opportunity to go to school, fantastic. I totally agree with that. But if there's some places where they really don't have an opportunity to go to a school, or the schools aren't funded well enough to provide the right types of teachers, and now these students are going to have the ability to go find a teacher, like a speech pathologist, for example, that may not be committed to all the schools in a district, but now through the telepiece could be accessible. So when you ask that question, I'm just full of optimism and excitement. I feel like humanity and civilization is taking a big step forward to healthcare, mental health care, taking care of our citizens. And I really see it as a global thing. It's not an American thing. It's not, the UK or any specific region or segmentation. This is something that we need to do together as a society because it's the right thing to do.
Well, Arthur, I want to thank you for your time. Telehealth is exciting to see what's happening, and I hope that you and your company can capitalize on the great opportunities that are out there. Thank you.
Edwin, thank you so much for your time and for doing what you're doing here. It's an opportunity for us to tell our story, to get it out there, to share what's going on in telehealth. As last year we won the Zoom Global Trailblazer Award. It was their inaugural award, but it was for the most innovative company in telehealth in the planet. So that was pretty exciting. We were taking down some pretty big competitors. So it's just exciting that you're allowing entrepreneurs to put their information out there, help let people know what's going on in telehealth. And I just thank you so much for the time.
We appreciate your gratitude.